Life is a journey. Remember the first invitation that Jesus gave? Come, follow me. When Jesus said that to Peter, Andrew, and James, and John, they might have thought about these other words. They likely said, where are we going? What's this about? They had no idea that it would be the journey all the way to the cross. Life is a journey. You could think about it in lots of ways, but this morning I'm thinking about life as a journey in three different ways. First one is pretty obvious, likely. Life is a journey from birth to death, from the cradle to the grave, from the womb to the tomb. Trying to make poetry here, eh? Yeah. How many of you chose that journey? And when you got out of the womb, if you had I think your first thought, if you were thinking, would be, let me back where I came from. This is too cold. And when I look at the other people on the journey, I don't want to go on this one. We did not choose. We did not choose where we would be born, the parents that we would have. We had absolutely no choice. The journey of life, with those two bookends, the beginning and the end, the womb and the tomb. That sound exciting? That sound like an adventure? Where did you get the word adventure out of that, Christine? Yeah. Journey from total dependence. It is amazing when I think about how dependent we are when we are born. Completely helpless. Compare the human journey to that of animals. Unfortunately, nowadays, not many people are living with animals. Those of you that have raised cattle, how long does it take that baby calf to figure out where the nutrition comes from? And if he doesn't figure it out in the first 2 hours, he's got to have some help, right? How many of you have raised horses and that colt is born? How long before he or she struggles to her feet? And it is amazing, after the first day, that colt can run by the side of its mother wherever the mother goes. I didn't do that when I was born. You know? We are so dependent, but we would like to be so independent. But I don't believe we are. We are in need of help all the way from birth to death. We need other people. And those of us sitting here this morning, I'm assuming that we're here because we believe that there is another journey that goes beyond death. But even if the only thing in life we believe is we're going from beginning to end, and that's all there is to it. We really need other people who are loving, kind, and patient with us. So, separate and apart from anything spiritual, I think if we are thinking, we should figure out what kind of people we should be as we journey together. We live in community, we live in homes, we live in families. Life is an adventure, life is a picnic. Those are pretty sweet words. But those of us that have journeyed for decades have also figured out that oftentimes life is pretty tough. Just ask somebody that's nursing in the hospital. Life is often tough. And Job, of course, reflected on life a fair bit, and I've got the quotation right at the bottom, so you can glance down to the bottom. Mortals born of woman. I don't know if there are other kind of mortals or not. I don't know what he was thinking. Are of few days and full of trouble. They spring up like flowers and wither away like fleeting shadows. They do not endure. According to Oliver Goldsmith. Sometimes we may forget that, but we are often brought back to it very, very abruptly. Psalms 90 and 10, the psalmist says, our days may come to 70 years, or 80, or 82. Anybody here past 82? As my dad, when he was living, he lived to be 95. He would be in an assembly like this, and he'd look around and he'd say, Ray, I'm the oldest one here. You know what that feels like? And I don't know if it's something to be proud of or it's just a realization. It's nothing to be proud of, I guess. And the writer of Psalms would agree. But fortunately, I think for most of us here this morning, when we think about life, we think of it as being more. And being in the things that I have done through life, I have stood many a time at an open grave. And the thought that comes to my mind, whether it's attached to the Bible or faith or whatever, the thought that comes to my mind is, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be more than this. And our faith gives us a sense of a much longer journey. The journey from the here and now, however adventurous, however picnic it might have been, to the life beyond, from the here and now to the there and then. And again, we really need each other, don't we? We really need it. This business of faith has tucked in it the word together. And wherever you're at with your faith journey, please stay connected. Whether it's going to church on Sunday morning, or whether it's having coffee with somebody that you know is on the faith journey. Don't get disconnected from and we have this word fellowship. This is the together, a word for those of us that are traveling from here and now to there and then. If we think about that journey, it gives us a sense of destination. Well, every journey has a destination. Whether I'm traveling to India or Gravelberg, I think about, I start here, and that's the destination. But when you have the destination of the there and then, I believe, I feel, it gives us a sense of destination. To have that open grave, the only destination, is pretty cold. I was almost said cool, but cool is a strange word in our English language nowadays. It'd be pretty cold. But the destination of the there and then, I go to prepare a place for you, Jesus said. It also gives a sense of accountability. I think, just my thought, I think the dictators in our world do not have that destination because they don't feel that they're going to be accountable someday. Those of us who have a sense of the destination being there in the judgment where God calls everybody together and says, now give an account for what you have done in the body. There's that sense of accountability, which I think is good for us. And thirdly, of course, that sense of comradeship. And as I finish this morning, if I can finish this morning, that's where I want to end. But there's a third journey, and this may be more important. It's a journey that we choose. It's the journey from whoever I am right now, not yesterday, right now. The journey from who I am now to the person that God created me to be. Most of you have been on that journey for a while, and we haven't reached it, but we're not discouraged. It's the goal, it's the destination. And I believe that in each individual whom God has created, God has implanted His image. Let's make people in our image. What's God's image like? The Apostle John says, God is light. In the Old Testament, they would often refer to God as being compassionate and gracious. That, I think, is God's image. And God says, let us make people in our image. Every baby that's born, somehow, mysteriously or whatever, God has put that destination in our soul, in our heart, in our mind, to become what God is like. God is light. Secondly, God is love, gracious and compassionate. He is holy. He is just. Or Paul would put it this way. He said, we've all come short. We've all come short of the glory or the image of God. But Jesus has covered over that shortness. And so I like this verse in Romans chapter 8 and verse 29. Actually, you may like verse 28 better. And we put this on plaques in our houses. God makes everything good for those who love him. Yeah? Really? That all depends on what you mean by the word good. If your definition of good is health, wealth, prosperity, and comfort, I'm sorry. Doesn't appear to be in that business. You have to think very long. That Paul must have had some other idea in mind when he said the word good. God makes everything turn out for good for those that love him, those who are called according to his purpose. And that's why we have verse 29. Verse 29 is so important. Because God has predestined, that destination again, that we should be conformed to the image of his Son. See how that's echoing back to creation? And what God put in your heart, your soul in the very beginning. God has the destination that you should be conformed to the image of his Son. Question. What kind of life did Jesus live? He didn't live the kind of life that I live in a comfortable condo in the middle of Regina, where I turn the water tap on, I flush the toilet, I take the garbage to the bin. Son of Man has no place to lay his head, no email address. Shirley and I have email addresses. I don't know if Brian's got one. I kind of doubt it, but yeah. Conform to the image of his Son. Come follow me. And we'll be on our way to Jerusalem. So, I'm not knocking the pleasures and the comforts and the privileges that we have in our country. Only admonition would be quit complaining. Not knocking those. God's given you that. That's great. And I appreciate it so much. But there's something better. The destination is beyond that. That we would be conformed to the image of his Son. The journey from whoever I am this morning on the 7th of April, 2024, to become the kind of person that God created me to be. I think, just my thinks, that's why we're here this morning, is to encourage one another on the journey of becoming. In John chapter 1, verse 11, it says that Jesus came to his own, and those who were his own did not receive him. That may be the saddest verse in Scripture. But verse 12 says, but to those who received him, who believed in his name, He gave them the right to become. We are, I believe, this morning, whether we're 12 or 18 or 37 or 82 or, I'm not going to guess Shirley's age, we are still in the process of becoming what God created us to be in the image of his Son. Gandhi said, where there is love, there's life. Traveling. I think I've done my share of traveling, and you likely have too. A lot of my travel joys have had to do with the people that I traveled with. I went to India last October for 6 weeks. I traveled with my wonderful daughter, 2 of my grandkids, and another nurse, longtime nurse, who is, I call her my adopted daughter. Fantastic trip. I'd like to go again, but I don't know that I could put a team of people together that would match that. But the same is true about those of us that travel this journey of faith together. And when I sit here this morning and think about Gravelberg, I've traveled with many of you for many, many years. I've traveled ever since you met in the little place down there in La Flèche. And I've had the privilege of being here when you opened the original building and this building. And then a decade ago, as Jennifer mentioned, I had the privilege of traveling with you for a couple years, day in and day out. Privilege of knocking on Shirley's door, and Brian says, come in and have lunch. Weddings and so on. And I want to thank you for the privilege of traveling with you. On all 3 travels, travel of life, birth to death, travel of going from the here and now and looking to the there and then. And most of all, on the travel of becoming what I believe God created me and you to be, conformed to the image of his Son. Back before Chrysler stole the word caravan, a caravan meant a group of people, especially Arabs wandering in the desert, or like the Israelites traveling from Egypt to the Promised Land. That's a good picture. It's a valid picture, from Egypt to the Promised Land. A caravan, a group of people trying to navigate life, trying to get along with each other, but even in the midst of squabbles or whatever, wanting everybody in the group, in the caravan, to reach the destination. So, let's caravan. Let's caravan together. Let's journey on.